panel for more perspective on the race for San Diego mayor. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. We have Scott Lewis with Voice of San Diego, Phil Mauriello with podcast California Underground, and James Canning, who has worked in a number of capacities within the Democratic Party. Thanks for being here. You know, right off the bat, ping-ponging off of what Joey was talking about, that Larry Turner has failed to disclose who he's voting for. What do you make of that, Scott?
He did put out a written statement saying like he hasn't voted for Trump and he won't, but I don't know exactly what that meant. The problem is that this city is going to go for Kamala Harris, and so, but he needs support from the other side too, and so he's trying to cobble that together. And you know, if you're going to win a mayor's race against an incumbent, you got to prove that the incumbent needs to be fired and that you're the guy that needs to be hired. And that took a lot of resources, and it might have been too little, too late when he got a little infusion from a donor.
Interesting. So typically this is not a partisan race per se. However, I think the question here is, how do San Diegans feel that Mayor Todd Gloria has done on some of the top issues: homelessness, cost of living, infrastructure and roads? Phil, what do you think people are thinking as they're headed to the polls?
Well, I think this is an interesting race because there just doesn't seem to be a lot of enthusiasm about Todd Gloria overall. And I just don't know a lot of enthusiastic Todd Gloria supporters. But I think for a lack of anything else, he's sort of the known commodity. People know he's been mayor. They know he's been in the political sphere, as opposed to Larry Turner, who is this new player, independent police officer. There was that issue of whether he lived in San Diego or lived in El Cajon. So he's sort of this unknown commodity, as opposed to the devil you know better than the devil you don't know. So it's interesting that the enthusiasm over Todd Gloria hasn't been there, but he probably will likely win anyway, just for being that.
What are you watching in this race, James? Because that's true. He probably will win. However, if it turns out to be a close race, does that say something about the job that Todd Gloria is doing?
I mean, like Phil said, I mean, there's a little bit of trepidation by some Democrats about Todd. However, he's the person you can trust. I mean, Larry's said a bunch of things that you cannot trust. He's tried to lean on his military record, his police record. But I think most people trust a real politician, and he's not a politician. He's some guy that wants to be there. He's a shill for the Republican Party, and he's just there. And I don't think people care about him.
You know, it's interesting, Scott. We saw him in the final days leading up to Election Day here kind of bond together with Colleen Cusack, Terry Hoskins, trying to say we can do better than the incumbent candidates. Do you think that was a good political strategy for him?
Well, you gather a coalition wherever you can, right? And I think there are a lot of people really frustrated with the homeless situation. A lot of ads saying like, hey, we cleaned up tents, and you see tents and you see suffering so many places. You see buildings that are decrepit. You see infrastructure that needs desperate revival. And you don't see the kind of urgency from City Hall that the people feel like is needed. And so I saw a lot of Kamala Harris and then Colleen Cusack signs, or Kamala Harris and Larry Turner signs.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of people trying to express it, but the signs don't mean anything. At the end of the day, when you aren't well known, are the people who are kind of making their decisions in the last few days going to gravitate to something they don't know or something they do know, a name they have heard? And that's what's probably going to define the race.
But here in San Diego, we don't really have approval polls. So what is the litmus of how Mayor Todd Gloria is doing? James, you want to?
I think when you really look at it, like Larry Turner's homelessness plan is, let's keep doing what the city's doing and more. And so the reality is he's already acknowledging that the mayor's doing a lot and that he's going to add some extra stuff that he doesn't even know what it is yet. So I think Todd is the obvious choice. He knows how government works. He knows how it works. He was on your podcast, Larry was, talking about government in a way that was clear. He didn't understand how all the dollars and cents work.
But that's probably the problem with Todd, right, is that he does know, there's no question he knows the city government better than Larry Turner does. But in a way, that's almost paralyzed him, right? Like he sees risks in so many different spots. He sees problems. He sees inability to get stuff done. He sees just a burden and a kind of a miserable job. And so would you want to see somebody new come in and just kind of, do a whole different thing? The problem is Larry Turner that guy, right? Is he the one that could come in and just completely change that ship, change directions, or would he be, snowed under so quickly?
And I think that's an important point. If you're going to be a challenger from the outside, like an independent, you have to make up with this with some sort of charisma or name notoriety to make up for the fact that you're not a well-known political commodity. And that's just San Diego mayoral races in the past couple elections. There just hasn't been any interesting challengers to what are basically lackluster Democrats running like Todd Gloria. So, I mean, it's a question of good challengers versus incumbents.
I mean, lackluster. I mean, I don't know. Larry standing there in front of the podium trying to inspire me to care about the city compared to Todd is a different thing. And I think there's in political leadership, you need someone who can inspire you, has a level of charisma, and along with being able to deliver on the goods. And I think that that's what people need. And Larry standing up there kind of Frankenstein stiff, I don't think he's going to help me.
I by no means am a defender of Larry Turner. I'm just saying that Larry Turner does not meet the mark to be a decent challenger for Todd Gloria. And I think if it was a better challenger, maybe more charismatic, maybe more name recognition.
But that's the problem with the complete collapse of the Republican Party. And if Donald Trump is doing really well, that's great for the Republican Party nationally. But I think it means that the local Republican Party is in the wilderness again because they are unwilling. Turner's not even willing to talk about the presidential race, and any challengers it's going to get even more solidified. You see the Democrats just hammer Republicans if they have any connection to Trump, tenuous or full endorsement. And that's just been an anchor around them for years now. And if he wins, it's going to be even worse now for 4 years for any challengers. So then all that matters is going to be this contest within the Democratic Party. And I'm not sure that's great for difference in government.
Well, we will have a lot to talk about throughout the evening. We thank you guys for being here. We're going to see what the voters have to say about it. For now, we're going to send it back to Mark.